that.
And we are live.
We're
live. Maybe our Ralph can confirm that we're live, David, so that we know that the technology is working. We had a bit of a meltdown last time, so yeah, let's hope it's working. Have we gone live? Are we?
It says live on my screen.
Yeah, we are. We are there. Is YouTube working? It says we're live on YouTube. There's 7 watching on YouTube. That's good.
Look at that.
Hello. Right, I'll just assume that it's working on LinkedIn as well. I'm not going to start playing it, but yeah, welcome, Henry. Welcome, Henry. David. Hello. Welcome to an episode, well, formerly now, the School to Prison Pipeline Evidence Project. We're really grateful for your time, Henry. And yeah, it's a lot of people recognise you from the telly. I don't know if you just want to give us a quick introduction, really, of just who you are, how you ended up on Inside Our ADHD Minds, and yeah, like how that happened for you, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, guys. It's we're really excited to be here. It's wicked. I'm Henry. I'm 24 years old, and I was on Inside Our Minds on the BBC a couple of months ago now. Seems like yesterday, and it was really quite a long process to get there. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a week before my 18th birthday, right as I was doing my A-levels. And it was a bit of a kind of explosion, if you will, in my life. And there was a lot to figure out. And I spent the next 5 years struggling a bit, kind of not really knowing too much about myself and my condition, if that's how I want to put it. And then over a year ago now, I saw my mate sent me an application for Inside Our Minds. They were looking for people with ADHD and or dyslexia, and I have both. So I thought, that could be something. And it was a multitude of things. I had done absolutely nothing with my day that day or the day before, and I was feeling a bit like, I've got to do something. I've got to break this. And B, I was really keen to explore my ADHD, and I'm a presenter by trade, so it's what I like doing, talking and conveying stuff. So I applied, and it was just one of those things. I put in an application video, and then I got a phone call, and then another one, and about 2 months after that, they said I'm on, and it was just an incredible experience with some fantastic people. So yeah, it was pretty nuts.
Yeah, it really did look like it, and the Tombola man that you portrayed within that was incredible. Yeah, and like I mentioned before in our chat, I showed that to my mom, and I'm sure a lot of people did to their parents. It was like that is what it feels like, and that was an incredible feeling. How did that feel to you, creating that? Like, what did that provide to you?
Creating that character, sorry.
Yeah.
It provided me. I've described it subsequently as like, have you ever seen that film where there's an invisible man who's kind of like haunting someone, and they're for a large part of the film, and it's like they're not sure if it's really there or what it is or what's going on, and then there's a scene where she chucks paint on it. Suddenly, it's got a physical appearance. You know what I mean? And it was much like that, because it was obviously something I was living with day to day, and I was feeling the kind of side effects, if you will, but I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't place it. And the process of talking to Candace, the director, for hours and hours and hours before I ever saw a camera, was that kind of paint throwing opportunity. So on a level, it was just incredibly cathartic to kind of finally be able to identify this thing that for a while was just ADHD, but then working out on a personal level was fantastic, and then bringing it to life was just so much fun, because it was it was me, so it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And to hear that a lot of people resonated with it as well has really been beautiful, because it can be quite, I'm sure you boys know, it can be quite isolating, can't it? And confusing. So to be able to kind of put it into a physical format of performance was just, a once in a lifetime opportunity. So it was brilliant.
Yeah, and go on, David.
Oh no, I was just going to ask about the ADHD and the dyslexia. Which one come first, or was it a dual diagnosis?
Dyslexia came first, funnily enough, because I was lagging early on. I was probably like 8 or 9 when I got diagnosed with dyslexia, very young. And then I think that's partly why I was diagnosed quite late with my ADHD, because I was never good at school, really, in the academic subjects, the reading, writing, and all that sort of stuff. And because I had this dyslexia diagnosis, I just wasn't like, it's that, isn't it? And it
no one looked past it.
Sorry?
And no one looked past it.
Exactly. No, it was, yeah, they just saw the label on the tin that was me and thought, well, there you go. But there was the actual real things I was struggling with in school were as a result of my ADHD. And that comorbidity, I think, is something that I'm yet to kind of work out, maybe the lines between the two. So, yeah, that's dyslexia definitely came first, 100%.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because I think that's quite common, and what happens to a lot of people when it's like that realization of, oh, okay, there's more to this, and how that affects school and how that affects relationships in families. And that's why, you know, we've kindly sort of, you know, grateful for your time to talk about the impact on your family and how that, you know, how does that go through your life, really, like from that schooling experience to now. And one of the key points in the documentary you did is you spoke to your family about, I think Chris Packham asked, how would you like score how your family how you felt your family understood your ADHD and how they felt they understood it, and the results were quite different. And that was one of them sort of goosebump moments for me. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's commonplace as well. And I think that comes down to that communication piece, the understanding. But I guess, how did that start for you at school? Like, if we were talking about your family and what support you had in school, and I know we briefly touched on this when we met previously, but how did that look for you in school? How did support look for you, and how did it, you know, connect with your family as well?
Yeah, it's I'm going to lay it out now, and I know we spoke about this before, but the support structure I had growing up was fantastic, and I definitely didn't utilize it at points growing up, because maybe part of me didn't want it, or, you know, I wasn't putting myself in the space where I could get it. But you know, I was struggling, always struggling, and the idea of sitting down and, you know, working on something that I really didn't resonate with me. It wasn't going to happen, so it didn't. Maybe you boys could relate, I don't know, but
100%.
yeah.
100%.
You know that feeling, right, when you're in a classroom and you can hear the clock ticking and you can hear that bloke on the other side messing with a pencil, and you're just, time is just, it's like treacle. So, you know, I was just sitting through that, really, just like, well, it'll end at some point and it'll be okay. But so I got to GCSE, and I was probably not in a good place. You know, I was really far behind. I was going to absolutely screw it up. And the school I was at, I had to get a certain amount of grades to get into the A level, and I wasn't going to make it. And this is the biggest support I had. Biggest was my mother, and I forevermore, and I'm vocal about it because just how awesome she is. She taught herself my GCSEs and then taught me. And we just sit there, and it's in the documentary, we sat around, but we just have weird ways of doing it. Like, I'd be in the garden playing, like, hitting golf balls over my neighbour's fence. They weren't pleased about that, but you know, whilst he asked me questions and stuff like that, and I made it through pretty decently. But then A level was a real step up. And there was support. Sorry if I'm drifting off topic here.
No, it's fine, mate. You're in good company. You're fine. I'm just checking. David, is your sound okay when Henry's talking?
No, it is a bit crackly.
Yeah, a little bit crackly. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was all right at the beginning. I'm just not sure why it's doing it now.
I have a microphone in my room I can grab real quick and plug it straight into my laptop.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the internet connection, as long as it's like strong, but I don't know why it's.
I can grab the mic. 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
No worries. That's fine, mate.
Sorry for anyone who's watching.
No, we'll make small talk, because
that's live TV for you.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a good opportunity for people. If you've got a comment or you'd like to, I've got this new software, right? And it seems to be working. It's better than last time. It allows us to collate chat messages. So if you're watching and you're willing and able to leave a message, or you'd like to ask Henry a question, then there's a chat function. If you leave it on YouTube or LinkedIn, you should be able to put the comment on there, and hopefully it pops up. Like, I've never tried this before, so we'll see whether it works. I'm not going to put it there because we'll get distracted and look at the comments. So I can see it my end, and then we'll go for it. Oh, look, the LinkedIn user. Hi, all.
There we go.
There we go. We're getting some comments coming up.
How is that?
I think it's
All
good.
Perfect. Yep.
Yes,
Well,
that's
now
good.
I can't hear you, which is a nightmare.
Oh,
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to go grab some headphones and be right back. Sorry.
that's all right.
Well, at least the chat's coming through, Cole, so that's another.
Can you see that?
I can see the chat, yeah.
Oh, happy days. Good.
Anna's the last one that's messaged.
Yeah. So yeah, just leave some messages, have a chat amongst yourselves in the chat, because you know, it's really good to reflect on the points that Henry's talking about. Cool. So yeah, like, there's so many points to unpack. You know.
Well, let's go to school to prison pipeline.
Yes, let's go there.
It sounds like Henry was quite close and skirted with that a few times. Well, not so much prison, but it sounded like he's going to be skirting with disciplinary processes within school. Did you have a lot of trouble like that at school, Henry?
Yeah, I was definitely. Sorry, how's the sound, boys? Is this better?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I was struggling at school. I was going to drop out, basically. I'd pulled out a load of applications for the RAF, which in hindsight was a bad idea. I wanted to be a pilot, but I'm 6'4", so that would have been not possible. But anyway, I'd pull them all out. I was ready to go, and my mother put me in touch with a kind of learning support teacher, who I'm again eternally indebted to. And then she got the diagnosis done, and then there was kind of an action plan. But I was never, I struggled through school, and I think behaviorally, if you know what I mean. Sorry, I can't say that word.
Yeah.
I was more absent. You know what I mean? I was.
Yeah.
I could sit in the classroom. I had these one-to-ones with this teacher once. No offense to the man, because he was brilliant, but for whatever reason, and maybe you boys might know what I mean by this, I could say yes or no or at just the right time when he was teaching me one-on-one, but I wasn't there. I wasn't taking anything in. So that was, a lot of people, that's half the reason it went under people's radar, I think, but also, so disciplinary-wise, I was always fairly okay, but I just wasn't learning. And I think where my life went after school, if I hadn't have finished school, it would have been a real not good thing, Yeah.
Do you know what I realised? Like you said about A levels becoming the next level up. Like for me, I got to a point where I think you get to that age where you realise you're like, actually, I can do something that I want to do, and you start to look around you, and you go from this point of someone telling you in education you've got to do this versus, well, actually now you've got an opportunity to potentially do what you want, and that's where that kind of step up comes, is because they try to push you to do the thing that they'd like you to do, because that means that you'd go to university and you'd do economics, and you'd be like, you'd come out like this, like a.
I didn't get that feeling until I was 46.
And like you then you fall away from it, and you just start to go, hang on, like I don't want to be here. So no, that's a really, really important point. And
was that something, sorry if you don't mind me asking, was that something you guys struggled with in school as well? Was that kind of,
I loved coding and designing, and I still do, and I realised at the time that was something that made
my cobber.
Well, that was chasing stuff. So yeah, it was. I regulate myself by like designing and looking myself away and just coding and things like that. And then that was the only thing I was really passionate about. And then somehow I became a copper. But it was that again. That's very much the same as running around and doing the thing that makes your brain tick. So yeah, what about you, David?
No, I had a terrible experience at school. They say that school years are supposed to be the best years of your life, don't they? And I think they're some of the worst. But then we're going back to the early 80s. And if you like, I can kind of excuse the situation then, because we didn't know then what we know now. But then that's why I get so frustrated and angry at the situation now, because we know so much more.
Yeah.
And yet we don't seem, say they, whoever they are, they don't seem to be listening. Sometimes they do, and then sometimes they don't. You think one moment, oh, do you know what? Yep, this is great. They're listening. For argument's sake, Cole, the MOJ's neurodiversity in the criminal justice system, their action plan. It's like, yes, they're finally listening. We've got the neurodiversity support managers off the back of it, neurodiversity champions off the back of it. But what's happened since?
Yeah.
Well, we've had no news from the MOJ about neurodiversity support managers since, or the action plan, how the action plan's been seen through, and how much impact, and how much difference that action plan has made. Obviously, I mentioned the neurodiversity support managers, but so it'd be nice for the MOJ to come out and let us know how things are going. We're supposed to have had one just before the general election, wouldn't we? But obviously that stopped it. So it would be nice to have something from that. But going back to Henry's original point, I hated school. Hated it. Go on, mate.
Sorry, I was just saying it hasn't changed at all in decades, has it?
No, it hasn't. And to be honest, you know what? The situation with children being in custody, that has got better over the years. But unfortunately, it seems to have hit a, I suppose, a trough, a peak, whatever way you want to look at it, because it's on the way back up again. It's starting to rise, and it's starting to rise in a quick manner. And that's because literally we're not investing enough or understanding enough our children. It's that simple. Yeah. Whitney Houston said the children are our future. They really are. Yet we see more intent on locking up men than we do in trying to support young children.
Yeah, that's a really important point.
Men and women. It's not a gender issue.
And I think it's that understanding that is so crucial. It's such a good point. Yeah.
And when we talk about understanding, like you mentioned, like that kind of you were diagnosed with dyslexia, and then you when you was diagnosed with ADHD, you had that kind of explosion. Or would you feel like you had like a grieving process for it?
I never did.
No?
I never did, because it was like, and that's what really messed me up afterwards, just before going into the documentary process. That was it, because when I got diagnosed, it was the beginning of my upper sixth. I'd done absolutely guffle before in the first year, so I was really far behind, and then I got this diagnosis, and then these people just descended on me, and they needed to, and it was great to get me through my A levels. I went from like CDE in my mocks to ABB in the space of a few months. So it was regimented. It was just bang, 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 and then I got spat out the other end of it with good results, and I had a gap year, and COVID hit. So, and that's when my life took a real turn, lifestyle wise, what I was doing and stuff like that. And then I went to university, and I found myself back on the same ADHD medication. And again, I was in bang, 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 just dealing with stuff on the day, surviving.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I was in the real world, and I'd always been promised, my parents, everyone that cared and gave me time was just like, this is education system's not for you. You'll be okay when you get out. And then I wasn't.
Do you know what? That is a brilliant, brilliant point. Like I can resonate with that entirely. Like me as an adult, like it's got worse. For some reason you think like people go, oh, you're going to get your shit together and you're going to be just fine. Like that your executive function goes to a whole new level. It's not just you just need to manage your homework. You manage your bills, you manage your relationships, you manage your job, you manage everything else in between. And it's like, no, it doesn't. And that, I think that's where you have this lots of late diagnosed people having really serious issues in their life.
Do you reckon that's... Sorry, go on, Dave.
Go on. I was just going to say, the thing... Having ADHD, it doesn't make you non-intelligent, does it? Do you know what I mean? ADHD isn't linked to intelligence. In fact, it probably, if it was, it'd be the opposite direction. It'd be quite a high rate of intelligence. And for me, that's what makes it even more frustrating, especially throughout my life, because I was always questioning why, especially when I was on banged up in a prison somewhere, I'd be like, oh, not again. Why do I keep doing this? And I could never answer it myself.
Yeah.
And although I got my diagnosis late on in life and it didn't affect me immediately or impact me immediately, it's kind of once I was in a better frame of mind, once I was in a better situation, I was then able to make use of it. And the rest is history, if you like.
So was that diagnosis for you, that diagnosis sounded really important for you? What did that diagnosis bring you?
Yeah, but again, not at first. As I say, I was still, I don't mind admitting, I was self-medicating with drugs. I was still getting myself involved in crime. I was always involved in one thing or another. But now, after the diagnosis, once I was in a position where, I suppose, telling the truth here, that I was in the worst position of my life ever. That was kind of the worst thing that ever happened to me become the best thing to ever happen to me, because it was from that position that I was able to kind of reflect on everything and think, right, this is what's gone on, this is what's happened, this is where I've gone wrong, and these are the reasons why, if you like. It's not just ADHD, there was other things as well. But that being in the right frame of mind, I was then able to kind of create myself a blueprint in what gives me my identity, what gives me my purpose. And one of those things was I suppose campaigning and fighting the system from the inside, but it was fighting the system in the right way. And that's what I kind of used now to stay out of trouble, I suppose, is kind of
was the direction,
that's it really.
No, thanks, David.
Yeah.
If David, would you like, you know, when you talk about the blueprint that you would create, like, where does that come from?
Age, for me. It was age and understanding. Now, again, I was intelligent. And one of the things that I started doing in prison was I've become a mentor for Shannon Trust. Shannon Trust are a charity who trains people in prison who can read to help other people who can't. Then off the back of that, I become a listener for the Samaritans, and then I become an education mentor. And all of those things combined, something I didn't realise that was happening at the time was the benefits that I was taking from helping other people. How much I was getting by giving rather than by taking. The problem for me was it was taking place in prison. So I kind of had more of an understanding, more of awareness, more care for people in prison than I did for people in society. Prison become my home. So, of course, I don't want to say people in prison become my family, but I become close to them because I started to understand the commonalities that we used to share. So it was all about understanding our differences rather than letting the differences sort of create a division.
It's like family in another way, isn't it? It's family of people that you...
In a way, well, you're living in each other's pockets, especially if you're banged up together. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and when people leave, if you've been banged up with someone for, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, and they get out, that's a lot to go through, especially if you've got on really well. You're grieving. You're grieving your freedom already, but now you're grieving someone else leaving. So things like that, when you become embedded, I don't want to say embedded, that's probably the wrong word, but when you become comfortable in prison and you get on with prison life, you just get on with it, if you like. Things like that really do have a negative impact. People being transferred to another prison, you being transferred, change is basically what it comes down to. In an environment where there's not a lot goes on, those changes, even changes to the day's regime, could really mess with your day and affect you mentally. If you're expecting to get out at a certain particular time and they don't come and let you out, the frustration levels go through the roof, especially if no one's told you beforehand. I mean, it's annoying when you get told before it happens, but if you don't get told, my God, the frustration levels, because you don't know what's going on. And even though you might be one person, one in 1,000 people, you're still going to take it personally. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, it must be something I've done. Do you know what I mean? They're not letting me out on purpose. You can't hear, they probably haven't let anybody out, but you're just taking it personally. Or there's something you start getting that paranoia trait come over you, and then by the time you get let out the door, you're angry, you're frustrated, and you lash out at the first person you meet.
Henry, go on, sorry, carry on.
Well, I was just going to say about that it was fascinating, Dave, because that blueprint you're talking about, the thing that you set out for yourself through helping others, did that help with that frustration by having that blueprint and by having those connections with people?
I've turned into the guest.
Yeah, sorry, man.
This is great. I'm being interviewed by Henry and Cole. Love it,
man.
So, what was that question again?
Sorry, mate.
No, love it. I love it. Go on. What's the blueprint?
Did it help with that frustration? Because that sounds awful, like that frustration and kind of being locked up. Do
you know what helped with the frustration in respect to prison was being informed? Believe it or not, it doesn't sound a great word when you use inform and prison together, but keeping it. That's why I used to get on in prison, because I used to get told stuff, and so I used to be able to keep a landing calm. It's like, oh, lads, I just we're going to be locked down tomorrow, so we're not going to be getting out until lunchtime. Those sort of things. See, that you'll get pissed off at that, but the thing is, do you know what I mean? You can deal with it. You can cope with that. It's those last minute things that really mess you up. But the stuff. When I was working with other people, because of different levels of where people were at, I'd have to be patient. Do you know what I mean? So off the back of that, I learned patience. I learned how to be more compassionate. I learned how to be more understanding. And the unwitting benefits I received from that was the fact that I started feeling more compassion for myself. I started to understand myself a little bit more. I started to like myself more. I've become a better person in prison. Do you know what I mean? Not because of prison, in spite of prison, but I become a better person in prison again by giving back. But again, I didn't link that to anything else. That was just me being in prison at first. It was only until my last prison sentence that I put everything together. Well, as I say, the rest is history.
Yeah, it sounds much like, this point now where you've got to, Henry, where you put everything into the documentary and you was able to really portray like how it impacted you. And I think a lot of people on this call are like, what it was similar for me. I was like, that's what it feels like. That is why, all of those things that David is talking about, those moments, like how do you talk to someone? And I'm quite self-aware now and understanding of ADHD, but still there are points in my life where I'm like, I just can't explain to you why I can't get the bloody thing done. Like the bloody thing is not getting done, and I still can't explain to you why I can't do it. But I can quite easily build a website and do all this other stuff that I need to do. And what I'd like to sort of explore is, you said your mum was like amazing, and there's this. How did that? What about relationships, or how that impacted other people in your family when you were growing up? Did you notice any difficulties, and how that changed as you grew up?
Yeah. To put it simply, yes, that was it was difficult at times, 100%. And there's many reasons for it, but I think there was this mission, right? When I was living at home anyway, for exams, getting me through school. It was like this kind of milestone that I just needed to pass. But outside of that mission, there's downtime, there's meals, there's life outside of it. And I think, so my dad, and maybe you wouldn't appreciate me for saying this, but we've had many conversations about it. We're all fairly convinced he's probably undiagnosed ADHD. But he's just, through genuine hard work and grit, and a kind of bloody-minded screw you, I'm not going to let you tell me I can't, did very well. And he has his methods, right, of how he got through it. And he would always say, like, before I got diagnosed, before we even knew what ADHD was, he'd just be like, oh yeah, nobody can sit down and do something that you don't want to do. Like, nobody can do that. And then my mum would be like, well, I can. But then it would just move on. But yeah, that relationship there was difficult because I was so strung out and I was feeling I really wasn't a good friend to myself. Going back to what you were saying, David, I had no compassion for myself, and therefore not much compassion for anyone else. So there was tension in the house, 100%, and it got to a point where I just found it easier to be on my own.
Yes, yeah, really empathise with that.
Right, it's when people are asking questions or expecting certain things of you that you can't even comprehend yourself. Like, how are you meant to communicate with that person? So I just locked myself away, and then that would be miscommunicated as well, and it would just that would be seen as me shutting them out for different reasons. So it was difficult. It's very difficult, and so there was a lot of tension. I think that's probably where that score came from, right? With the in the documentary, they said, you know, they're 8s and 9s, and I said 5s, 6s, or something. I remember now. And that it was residual. And that's what the documentary did, because now their numbers are not far off at all. They are 8s and 9s.
Right, that's good.
Which is great. It's amazing, but it wasn't easy. But, so yeah, it was difficult. It was really, really difficult. And I kind of look back with this, like, how the hell did I do that? sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like, not how did I do that? Sorry, how did we do that? How did we get through that moment? Because it wasn't great.
No, that's a really powerful point, I think. And when I think that causes so many problems between families is that lack of cohesion in what is actually going on versus the understanding. That, you know, could that be a driver for people going missing? Is that a driver for relationship breakdowns? Is that a driver for, you know, failures at school? There's just so many.
It's like belonging, isn't it?
It is.
When you're struggling to understand yourself, you can't understand the environment around you. It's like Henry was saying about that. We were talking about the compassion, where you feel more compassion for yourself. You start liking yourself better. But if you're not understanding yourself, people around you are not going to be able to understand you, or you're going to feel that people around you are not going to understand you. So of course that's going to lead to other issues, and one of those is fight or flight, isn't it? Fight, flight, or freeze. And so I mean, so you was talking about something a few moments ago, Henry, and it was like it resonated with me, and I was thinking, I used to run away. I used to go away for days. Do you know, I'd disappear from days, and that would obviously cause issues in the relationship I was in at the time. I couldn't explain myself. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know what I was doing. How can I explain what I was doing? Do you know what I mean?
And that's the most terrifying part, I think, especially when you don't know what's going on, right?
But exactly, like I say, like when it doesn't affect intelligence. So if you're intelligent and you still can't work out what's going on, it becomes even more frustrating. Yeah.
And that's frustration frustration and understanding might be the words of the day from this conversation, because it's one can solve the other. But it was from my perspective it was rough. It was rough. I don't know what it is about being on your own. Maybe you boys could shed some light on it, because I still to this day I need space. You
don't have to explain yourself to anyone, and like I yearn for that a lot. I'm like, I can't. I've got so many people I have to explain myself to, and this includes in your family as well. You know, like I'm grateful now because my mum understands more. I'm grateful now because in the relationship that I'm in, we could just talk about it. But even talking about it, even just discussing it, like
you can laugh at it more though, can't you?
You laugh at it, yeah.
When other people understand it, you can just laugh at it because you know what it is.
But I just get frustrated because I'm like, I still can't get this feeling or this thought that what I'm feeling right now, you can't feel that. Like they can't feel that. They can't feel the kind of disconnect, or the fact that I need to run away, or the fact that I need to kind of why I want to kind of step back, and because it's overwhelming. And then for other people, it's not overwhelming, and it's just this kind of pinball effect going on. And you go into a little bit of an argument, you're like, no, you come back out of it. And I think like when I look at my mum, I don't know if you can relate to this, Henry or David. Like when I look at my mum and 110% ADHD, that was what caused our conflict, because it was my mum trying to parent me from and behaviours that were ADHD, and I was then conflicting against that. So it was, we were both trying to make our point, but we just couldn't communicate it. And we just kept going and going and going until it blew up. And then we'd go, oh, what was that about? Never mind, let's crack on. And it was this emotional roller coaster of misunderstanding, when actually, like, if we just understood why, maybe we wouldn't have had that. Do you see that with your dad, or has that happened at any point in your families at all?
Yeah. I think there would be arguments, and it would be kind of cross wires. Exactly what you said. That, like, I didn't really understand the emotions I was feeling, and I think, you know, I've subsequently, actually, since the show, I've done a lot of work with ADHD life coach, and emotion is it's so intrinsic with, you know, everything. This sounds a bit obvious, right? But, like, you know, your thoughts and your executive function and all that sort of stuff. And I didn't have a clue. I was feeling a lot, but not being able to put.
It's that emotional dysregulation, isn't it? It's that, and it, you know, when it's so severe. How do you manage that when you know, like, how do you explain that? How do you explain that to your parents? Like,
and that was the touch light, you know what I mean, to most of our arguments and disputes. And I think it just got to a point, really, within the house where it was just like, we all took the stance of, let's just not bother, like, not bother, but keep to ourselves emotionally. You know, there's a mission to be done. There's a great quote from that Marines have, you know, don't shake the rope. You ever heard that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
You know, if one person starts shaking the rope ladder, other people fall off.
Yes.
And it turned very much into that, I think, you know, looking back, where it was just head down, do what you got to do, and let's no one shake the rope, because once someone shakes it and we start,
I like that analogy. I like it. Yeah, I completely empathise with that as well.
So yeah, it was a bizarre period of my life, and it seems like a kind of flashbang. You know, it happened so quick.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, it's really interesting.
What are the audience saying, Cole?
There's quite a few.
I got my glasses on.
That's all right. There's quite a few bits and bobs going on.
Any questions?
Let's see what people have got to ask. Evening all. Henry, you gave the perfect example with the Tombola man, which I'm sure many of us as parents and individuals could relate to. Or someone from LinkedIn, did you feel more vulnerable to being led astray in earlier school leaving days?
Good question.
Yeah. Sorry, would you mind repeating that?
Yeah, that's all right. Did you feel more vulnerable to being led astray at school?
Being led astray. Oh, I see what you mean.
Like being vulnerable or exploited in some way.
Yeah.
Or you're more the exploiter?
Yeah, that takes a bit of thought. Like, yes and no, to be honest with you. I was lucky because I had structure. I was impressionable. That's for sure. And
did you just on that structure there, Henry? Yeah. What did your good structure look like? Just because I think people would benefit. What did good look like for you?
Every hour of my day was accounted for.
Okay.
But just before I got diagnosed with ADHD, I was rowing. I was doing a lot of sport, lessons. You know, I had like different activities. I'm very lucky. I've got best mates in the world you could ever ask for. So, and then when I was diagnosed, I had to drop the sport, and that was not good for mental health. But there were just people there. There was just this net beneath me, so that I couldn't fall off. You know, from teachers offering to give me, you know, one-on-one lessons to my learning sport teacher Hetty, being in daily meetings with my teachers, so that she could prepare me for what I was going to go in for, and they could prepare for what I was going to be like. Give me special discipline. Honestly, mate, I felt like a Wagyu beef cow. You know what I mean?
Oh dear! I have never heard that analogy before with this context, but yeah, that is
So niche structure. Which is why it all blew up when I left. So yeah.
Wow. No, I love that. I love it. Oh dear. No, that's brilliant. And yeah, it just sums together like how different it can be with that. Yeah, like, sorry. What was I don't know, the original point was? I've just got to wag your beef cow, mate.
Yeah,
Now.
That's what I can think of now. I forgot what we were talking about. Where are we?
We've got beef for dinner, actually. Right.
Next
Yeah.
week, Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, I forgot what the point was. I think we was asking the questions.
Yeah, that's true.
Chat questions. Let's go.
I could have been if it wasn't for, because I was afterwards when I left school.
Yeah,
it became a problem, but not at school.
Just what's screaming out for me, Henry, from the kind of conversation is support. You had that support, which of course a lot of people don't get. I suppose a lot of people who end up in the criminal justice system are the ones that are not receiving the support.
Yeah,
and that's the tragedy, isn't it? Because it literally took one person in my life, other than my mum and my family, one teacher to give a damn, and everything changed.
Yeah,
she was my biggest advocate, and everything.
That's powerful, isn't it? That's really powerful.
And I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts on how this could happen, but just how can you get to a point where people give a damn, and there's a blueprint maybe to work its way through. But yeah, I was very lucky.
People need to hear that version of the events from you, of what works well, what could work, and that lived experience is such a powerful piece, and we bang on about it until the cows come home. But that's really good. Thanks for sharing that, Henry.
No, of course.
There's a couple of more questions here. There's actually quite a few questions.
There's a good one from Matt somewhere, but I can't find it. From Praxis.
Stand by. Say Matt.
1 minute.
Mate. Yeah.
I'm dying. I've got a wet cloth.
Is it? Oh, smart, mate. Smart.
Yeah, prepared.
Only because the missus give me it.
Teamwork. There you go. I've got a warm squash.
We got a great teamwork going on. I just go out and speak, but my partner Kelly, she looks after the wardrobe department, the travel department. It's great. I've just got, where am I going today? Here you go. Sweet. See you later.
That's fantastic. It's what you need, isn't it?
Brilliant. That's what you need.
Brilliant.
Do you know what? And I can cope with so much more now because of the support and understanding I get from my Kelly. Do you know what I mean? It's just that support just makes huge difference, doesn't it?
It does.
And when people, it's like some of the organisations I do work with, they just allow me to be me. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think I'm a bad person, so it seems to work anyway.
Yeah,
it does. I mean, on that point, so me and my sister, right, is fucking legend. She's excuse my language, sorry. She's an absolute legend. Right. We're embarking on a talking thing at the moment, talk about ADHD with different people.
Yeah.
And and my sister's, taking the Kelly role, if you will, of that. She's been awesome, and it just makes stuff possible that wouldn't be otherwise, wouldn't it? So giving a damn, eh? Giving a damn.
Yeah, and just exploring that, a couple of points. How did your parents, how did that look with your teachers and your parents talking to each other about challenges you had, or the good times as well? Like, how did that? Were the teachers able to communicate with your parents very well?
So here's another added little fold to this croissant of my life.
Croissant on Wagyu beef cow.
Food analogies now. Strap in, boys. No. My mum was a teacher at my school.
Yeah. So, yes, of course, you did say.
Yeah. So she was a math teacher, and math skips a generation in our family. So I was not doing math.
Was she at your school?
My school, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that again, I don't know, because that's how I think I found the sport from Hetty, my learning sport teacher, because I don't really fully understand, but I'm assuming my mum, I might have been a staff from conversation sort of job. So it was, it was, yeah.
Maybe that was the huge difference there, wasn't it? Like your mum had that awareness to ask the right questions, and that's, maybe there is progress in educating parents around this to have the right conversation.
100%. It's the parents that need the education. It's the adults that need the education. Children grow up in environments created for them by adults.
Yes.
Therefore, if the adults aren't aware, the children are going to be put at risk in whatever situation. So for me, it's like we'd be better off going to do parent talks than going into schools and doing school talks. Do you know what I mean? Because it's the parents. We can't expect children to be the decision makers in their lives at the moment. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying they can't have agency over their own lives. Of course they have, but they're still children, and we have to allow them to be children.
Yeah.
Not psychotherapists. Not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Absolutely. As I said, I was just very lucky, and it's when this documentary came out.
Is having a loving family lucky? I suppose it is.
Well, yeah. I suppose yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No, they sound like brilliant. They sound like brilliant people. You know, like they sound like they even should just be vulnerable on telly like that and just say it how it is. That's pretty massive, isn't it? Because I think that's a massive part of the kind of misunderstanding is having that vulnerability to go, do you know what? I don't quite understand this, or I'm not understanding it as much as I thought I could, but I'm just going to open myself up to that conversation. And when people do that, it changes the landscape, doesn't it? Massively.
Yeah. No one likes admitting they don't know anything, do they?
No.
And it's like asking for help. Asking for help puts the onus on you to ask the person that's doing the asking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like it can be coming across as a weakness or things like that. So to be able to show vulnerability like that on such a national sort of platform, if you like, was incredible.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, your parents and your family deserve huge congratulations, I suppose, if that's the right word, for their support.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, outside of just my family, I think so I have a few of my like day one friends got diagnosed with ADHD, and they struggled 100%. And I know a few of them who have, just by having a non-judgmental, not even an analytical conversation with their parents, of just laying out what they're feeling, what's going on, and for them to give them the time and listen. Honestly, rocking up the next day and seeing them in school or down the pub or something like that, noticeably different, and just their own the word we were using earlier, being nice to yourself, sort of thing. So I think that's so important. It's just that kind of understanding.
Wagyu beef instead of Tesco's value.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. It's slowly kneading instead of blending. So
no, that's brilliant, mate. No, that even creating conversation amongst your mates is a breath of fresh air, isn't it? Talk about family, but effectively it is your sort of family, isn't it? Family, friends, and how, like, honestly, like, I find it really hard to even just, I tend to not bother, and that's quite deafening, because like I want to say it, but it's how do you say it, and it becomes frustrating. And that's one of the points here is actually, someone said, have any of you ever struggled with your identity or sense of purpose? I know you've touched on that, but I still do. Yeah, still do. I don't know. I'd just rather hop on a plane and disappear most days, but I think that's, you never quite find your feet. What do you think?
Myself, that's a daily battle. I think. Yeah. When I, again, just the year from leaving university, doing documentary, that was, who do I want to be? What am I gonna be? Absolute nightmare, and it doesn't get better. But what you said, David, earlier, genuinely will stick with me, because when you were starting to work with people, and it was through motion, it was through process of just doing something where you found the value, and it really helped you. Like what you got from helping others is kind of where I'm at the moment, just trying stuff, keeping momentum, because it's those stagnant days. Maybe it's when there's nothing going on, or everything goes black. So I struggle with that 100%. Not sure about you, David.
Yeah, for me, I spent years struggling with identity and purpose. I mean, with the labels I was given from a very young age, and getting involved in criminality for a very young age, and the labels that come with that as well. If you like, those labels were my identity, and my purpose for years was playing up to that identity, to kind of proving people right, if you like. And it was through, again, the roles I covered in prison, becoming a better person in prison, that I started to create a new identity and a new purpose. And that, unfortunately, new identity was good prisoner. And the purpose was to be a good prisoner and to help my peers around me. And I suppose, again, when in 2015, when I was at my lowest point, I went back to prison and I thought, right, this is the one that I've got to use to make a difference in my life. I knew exactly what I needed to do because I had that identity and purpose of giving back, if you like, helping others. One thing I started to really understand with my ADHD was justice sensitivity. That was something I looked into quite a lot because before I had understanding, my justice sensitivity, I'd always be the one that was being done wrong. So therefore I'd bite back or I'd react. And I started to understand more about as I say, the justice sensitivity. I've noticed a lot of people are talking about rejection and sensory dysphoria.
RSD, yeah.
And with justice sensitivity, that where I felt I was being done wrong, I'd react. Whereas now, my justice sensitivity is against all the things that I've witnessed, all the things that I've experienced, the system itself, not just the criminal justice system, but the education system. That's where my kind of passion now is aimed at, and that's what keeps my justice sensitivity is now, and that's what keeps my passion for it burning, because there's so much that's wrong, and I actually love the person that I am now. Life isn't perfect, and people talk about going straight or the straight and narrow. It's anything but. It's a roller coaster. But obviously, the more that you understand what's going on in your own brain, the more you can work with it. I think it was you that said that not so long ago, Cole. If you understand your brain, you can work with it and not against it. And that's what understanding yourself enables you to do. And the other thing, we spoke about isolation. When you like the person you're alone with, you're never lonely. Do you know what I mean? And that's something that I learned, funny enough, in prison. That growth that took place, if you like, that unwitting growth in jail that I only put together in 2015 with that blueprint that I've been mentioning.
Yeah, no, it's that's funny enough. It's like 3 people in this call now tread the path in different ways, but trying to. And I notice this with a lot of people with ADHD and neurodivergent in general. It's like, I've been through this crap, but now what am I going to do with it? You know, you created Tom Bowler Man, and now your message and your purpose is, you know, I want to make this better for other people. Same with David, same as me, just in our own different worlds because of the way that what we've experienced. And the similarities are far more similar than we know or we see. And that's quite a powerful thing for organisations, for schools, for anyone to like recognise and understand, because actually those people are really important for change.
I was going to say, sorry, I like what Anna's just said in the chat. My son's sense of injustice is massive and gets him into trouble at school because the teachers see it as arguing or talking back when actually he's just questioning a decision that doesn't make sense or seems unfair. And it's like they ask you stupid questions sometimes, and like, I don't get it. Yeah. And you're the one that's treated as being stupid.
Yeah, that's posh, isn't it? I'll just put it on the screen. It's
I was going to say, what?
Love that.
Headline for a job at the BBC next. Look at Joe Myerskoff. There's someone.
What's this about?
Oh, fantastic!
Well, that's niche. Right, interesting.
Squirrel.
Yeah. Well, we've all just been distracted by the feature on Restream. Like, I like it. I didn't know I could do that. I'd be doing so many of them. Wow. Okay.
No, Anna's so right. I mean, Anna's so right in what she's saying about children at school. And the thing is, as well, you learn by making mistakes. At school, you get punished for making mistakes. It's like you can't have it both ways, people. We either learn by a mistake, or you're going to punish us for our mistakes. But at least be consistent with one or the other.
And what can help with that, isn't it? It's just someone changing their mindset and trying to see it. And that's where they understand. If they can understand what that ADHD, that justice sensitive thing, if they can just shift their mindset to yours, then it's so you can nip it.
It's like teachers, Henry. It's like police officers, teachers, prison officers. I don't expect them to become experts in everyone else's field. Yeah, teachers teach. Police officers, be a police officer. Prison officer, be a prison officer. However, you need to be aware of the people that you're coming into contact with. Because everyone's different. And just because someone might look at the ground doesn't mean to say they're guilty. It means they can't make eye contact because they could be overwhelmed. If someone's reacting in a certain way, they could be stimming because they're overwhelmed, their anxiety, not because they're being naughty or they've been bad or they want to be disobedient, for want of another word. Do you know what I mean? There's so much that people can understand that would make situations so much easier. And they'll be less likely to be situations that escalate. If anything, they're going to de-escalate. Do you know what I mean? All because someone understood. That's it. You don't have to be an expert. You don't need a master's. You don't need a degree. You just need to understand that person in front of you may be exhibiting that behavior in a certain way because of A, B, C, or D. All behavior is communication. And as adults, we should be skilled enough to be able to ask the right questions. Ooh, I'm getting off my side.
Oh, I love it, mate.
Whoosh.
So
we're coming to the end now. It flies by, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Oh my God.
You know what? It's been really great speaking to you, Henry. And I just want to understand what the future sort of holds for you now. Like, what's next? Like, what are you looking forward to doing? What are you, what's coming up?
More of this, mate. As you were just saying a few minutes ago, like, this is the focus now, because since the documentary, I'm sorry, I couldn't read the things at the bottom because I was listening. I can't listen and read, but
they're really positive comments. Really positive comments.
Little glimpses and stuff, and just there's so much understanding that is yet to be done.
Yes,
and I feel through conversations like we've had today and more, and just explaining it, breaking it down a little bit, it can be so much better. So yeah, we're planning, as I was saying, me and my sister are planning, we're talking to people, starting conversations, and speaking with parents is a big one as well. So
if we can help you in any way, then please do let us know, because we'd be happy to.
And vice versa, boys.
You've added another point to that's the point of this podcast, really, is the School to Prison Pipeline Evidence Project, is just to bring together pieces of lived experience and evidence and to improve understanding, not only from a personal sort of point, but also from an organisational level, to bring practitioners together to understand, like, your story, to see how vulnerable you were on that show, to see what it means to someone else. Like, how does that feel like? And that I'm really grateful, and I know so is David, for your time, and the people that are on the call now, just for your honest and frank experiences that you've shared with us this evening. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, mate. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Henry. It's been an absolute I suppose rather than repeat everything Cole said, I'll just second everything Cole said, and I wish you and your sister every success in the future with what you do.
Thank you.
If we can be of any help, or if we ever hear anything that we can send over to yourselves, we will do.
I appreciate that, boys, and I'm just such kudos to you, lads. What you're doing is fantastic, and same for you. Anything I can ever do for you, let me know, and it's a pleasure to meet you, boys. Thank you very much for having me on.
Brilliant. Cool.
You're a star. Thanks, Henry.
Cheers, David.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers, Cole.
Bye, guys.
Right, you hanging out, Cole, or ending the recording?
I don't know with this one. We'll see how it goes.
Don't know how.